There's been a shift over this past month in the way that the right talks about Donald Trump's cover-up of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Originally, the go-to talking point was that it's all a hoax, that it's the Democrats, that we just need to move on, it's a distraction. But slowly they decided to change their mind, saying, you know what, maybe we will release the files. And then it was, well, we've always wanted to release the files, and now it's Democrats were the ones blocking them. And why? Because they know the release is inevitable, and they want to pretend that they were on the right side of history. They want to change the narrative. But that's not the first time that has happened with Donald Trump around Epstein. And a fired White House advisor is the one who tried to make it happen, and now it's all going public. And the worst thing is that video is accompanying it. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into this new Epstein video that is going to be coming out, I want to start with someone, Jasmine Crockett, talking about how MAGA, again, is trying to change the narrative.
Now the administration is panicking. First, they campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. Then AG Bondi and Associates did a photo op with the files. And she said, and I quote, "The Epstein list is on my desk." Then somehow the Epstein list didn't exist. Then the Epstein files became a Democratic hoax. Now the president is supposedly supportive of releasing the files, even though he's currently ignoring a congressional subpoena to do so. Now the president is simply crashing out. And it's because he can't seem to explain his special decades-long relationship with one of the most prominent sexual predators in American history. It's already public that he's in the Epstein files, but his administration is hiding the context of his involvement, if any, with Mr. Epstein's horrific crime.
They're not very subtle. It's very obvious that MAGA wants you to believe that all along they have been in support of releasing the Epstein files, that Donald Trump was the one who told his MAGA Republicans in the House and the Senate to vote for the bill to force the release, so why wouldn't he want them to be released? Why do you say, Democrats, that Donald Trump is covering up? He told Republicans to vote for it. He didn't tell Republicans to vote for it. Donald Trump couldn't tell them not to vote for it, because he is weak and the momentum was too strong. The wave was going to wash them all away. There is nothing that Donald Trump could have done to stand in the way of the Epstein files. The cover-up is going to be exposed. It's being exposed right now as Pam Bondi still stands in the way. And it's largely why Donald Trump thought, do you know what? I'm going to stop fighting this, or at least pretend to publicly, because I know Pam Bondi's got my back. I know Pam Bondi is going to stand in the way. I know Pam Bondi will continue to help me delay. And that has been the case not just in this administration, but in administrations prior. Donald Trump has very strategically surrounded himself with former friends, associates of Epstein, and people who had a vested interest in us not talking about him anymore. Rachel Maddow made that very clear.
What happened to the lawyer who got Epstein his bizarrely lenient plea deal when he was first arrested on sex trafficking charges in Florida? What happened to the lawyer who got him that bizarrely lenient plea deal? Well, Trump hired him to be his own lawyer. What happened to the U.S. attorney who gave Jeffrey Epstein that bizarrely lenient plea deal? Oh, Trump put him in his cabinet in his first term. Well, who then prosecuted Epstein a second time when he was brought up on federal charges? Oh, that was the SDNY line prosecutor who Trump inexplicably fired last week. Who was in charge of the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons when Epstein then killed himself in federal custody? President Donald Trump. Who bragged to a reporter about how much Epstein seemed to like women on the younger side? Who said Epstein was a lot of fun to be with? Who bragged that he was friends with Epstein for 15 years? Who flew on his plane at least 7 times? And who now says that everybody needs to stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein right now? Answers there are Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, and Donald Trump.
There were lots of people in Donald Trump's circles who took money from Epstein, who were friends with Epstein, who partied with Epstein, who likely broke the law with Jeffrey Epstein. It's no surprise to me and feels like no coincidence that Elon Musk came back into the Trump fold. He stopped criticizing him. He started being a little more polite when it came out that he was planning to visit Jeffrey Epstein's island. And then Elon kind of shut up. Now, Elon maybe doesn't want more information coming out, but there's a lot of other people who are afraid of it as well. And they, as we know, worked in the first Trump administration and are working in the second Trump administration, working on the cover-up, that is. And it wasn't just inside the White House it was going on. Outside the White House, there was a campaign, much like there is now, to change the narrative. This time, it's about Donald Trump's cover-up. Last time, it was about literally covering up for Jeffrey Epstein. It is what Steve Bannon, after he was kicked out of the White House, was doing. But now, all of his practice with Epstein to change his public perception, it's about to go public. Steve Bannon was planning to produce a pro-Epstein documentary on the day of the financier's arrest. Emails reveal that Bannon was making arrangements for a redemptive documentary to counter damaging narratives advanced by Netflix's Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich. Filmed on location in Little St. John Island, the abandoned project was going to feature testimonials by Epstein pals like Michael Wolff. The day of his arrest on federal sex trafficking charges, Jeffrey Epstein was planning a documentary to rehabilitate his image and to counter the soon-to-be-released Netflix documentary Filthy Rich. A trove of newly released emails reveal his partner in the project, former Trump Chief of Staff Steve Bannon, who subsequently emerged as one of Epstein's staunchest critics after his death. The Epstein-funded doc was to feature interviews with luminaries across media, academia, and politics to reshape the narrative. Among the high-profile participants mentioned was Michael Wolff, an Epstein pal and avid chronicler of the Trump presidency, who was advising Epstein at the same time on how to handle dealings with the president. Now, the Daily Beast reports top Democrat addresses going after Bannon's secret Epstein tapes. The top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia, said he and his fellow lawmakers are absolutely going to subpoena people with connection to Jeffrey Epstein, including Steve Bannon. The former Trump White House strategist has about 15 hours of unreleased video footage of Epstein that was shot in 2019 before the disgraced financier was arrested on sex trafficking charges, according to Epstein's brother Mark. The two were working together on a documentary to rehabilitate Jeffrey Epstein's reputation, his brother said. Bannon has since released a 2-minute trailer for The Monsters, Epstein's Life Among the Global Elite, which he now says will be released as a 5-part series earlier next year. During an interview with MSNBC, Robert Garcia was asked whether lawmakers investigating the Epstein scandal had Bannon in their sights and whether they are planning to subpoena other people like New York City financiers who reportedly had a relationship with Epstein. This information, I think, is so critical because what type of a person would not only be friends with Jeffrey Epstein, but then sit down in front of a camera to defend him? And what did they want hidden? And what did they want the public to think about Jeffrey Epstein to protect their relationship? And these are the same questions that I have about the high-up executives at JP Morgan Chase, who said that they helped sanitize, in their words, Epstein's bank accounts as he ran this trafficking ring, this criminal cabal. I want to know what those people knew. I want to know more stories from the people who sat down in front of the camera and said, "Let me defend Jeffrey Epstein." I want more information. I want Bannon subpoenaed. I want all that footage, and it looks like it could soon be coming out. Because as we know, and as I've said, I think what isn't in the Epstein files is a lot more damaging than what is in the Epstein files. The people who have been giving over the most information about Jeffrey Epstein, that's his estate. They have turned over tens of thousands of emails. They turned over the birthday book. And why? Because Pam Bondi cannot stand in the way of those subpoenas. So why would Steve Bannon be any different? He's not. He's also a criminal, mind you. So I think we should have even less reason to trust him. But his information is not under the purview of the DOJ. They can't block it. They can't slow roll it. They can't edit it. This is information that we need to be focused on getting. Because Bannon left the White House to then pal around with Epstein and try to change the narrative around him. Trying to change the narrative. That is what this administration is focused on right now. making you believe that they are releasing the files. It was just a little bit ago that they said it was all going to be coming out. Donald Trump signed it. He said it was done, signed, sealed, delivered. Everybody move on now. I'm not moving on. I don't think it's time to move on. I don't think it's time to focus on something else. I think it's time to focus on this in the washing, the cleansing, the sanitizing of the image of Trump and his connection to Epstein, because it's not going to happen on our watch. I want that footage. And I want those people who sat down to be subpoenaed. I want lots of subpoenas. I want nothing but subpoenas. I just have to say, I can't believe this is where we are. Especially because this morning I watched Tim Walz on Meet the Press sound like an actual human person, which he is. And I want a little, speaking of sanitizing, I want a little bit of palate cleanser after having to talk about these disgusting figures and just see what could have been with Tim Walz.
Well, here we got a guy on Thanksgiving where we spent time with our families, we ate, we played Yahtzee, we cheered for football or whatever. This guy is apparently in a room ranting about everything else. This is not normal behavior. It is not healthy. And presidents throughout time have released a couple things. They've released their tax returns, not Donald Trump, and they've released their medical records, not Donald Trump. And look, the MRI is one thing, but I think what's most concerning about this is, as your viewers out there are listening, has anyone in the history of the world ever have an MRI assigned to them and have no idea what it was for, as he says? So look, it's clear the president's fading physically. I think the mental capacity, again, ranting, crazily at midnight on Thanksgiving about everything else, there's reasons for us to be concerned. This is a guy that randomly says the airspace over Venezuela is closed. He's ruminating on if you could win a nuclear war. Look, this is a serious position. It's the most powerful position in the world. And we have someone at midnight throwing around slurs that demonize our children. And at the same time, he's not solving any of the problems. So I'm deeply concerned that he is incapable of doing the job.
God, I miss him. Oh, I miss him so much. I miss hope. That was fun. That was joyful. But that's what we could have been. That's the type of guy we actually do need in the White House. I don't know. A lot of 2028 talk already starting to happen. And Tim Walz, he could throw his name out there. A lot of great names, but Tim Walz. I like Tim Walz. I miss Tim Walz. And we are going to keep talking and making sure that we call out Donald Trump's disgusting rhetoric, his cognitive decline, and of course his relationship to Epstein. If you want to support that work on this show, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.